If you truly want to become the best in your field, then answer one simple question. What are you doing every single day, and where is it actually taking you? Most people stop right here because they stay busy, but they're not clear. You might be doing the same thing all day. You keep doing something, learning new things, watching videos, doing a little bit of work. Then the next day, the same cycle repeats. And on the surface, it feels like I'm working hard. But listen carefully. Working hard and working hard in the right direction are two completely different things. This is the point where most people fail to understand, and this is exactly where their growth stops. You think the problem is time. I don't have enough time. Or you think it's resources. I don't have the right tools. But the truth is a little uncomfortable. Your problem is not time. It's not resources. Your problem is direction. And you don't have direction because no one ever taught you what the actual process is to grow in any field. You were only told, work hard, stay consistent. But how? What should you focus on? How long should you do it? You were never given a clear answer, and this confusion slowly pulls you backward. Wait, understand something important here. You're not alone. 90% of people are making the same mistake. They do a little bit of everything, but never go deep into one thing. 3 days of gym, 2 days of coding, 4 days of content. Then motivation fades, reset, and the same cycle starts again. Years pass, but life stays exactly where it was. Now here's the twist. You think you're slow, but in reality, you're not slow, you're scattered. And a scattered mind can never create focused growth. That's why some people slowly move ahead, while others stay stuck. Now, one more uncomfortable question. In the last 30 days, what is the one skill you've worked on consistently? Or did you keep changing direction every few days? The truth is hidden right there because your mind keeps you busy, not productive. And that's the difference. Busy people get tired, focused people grow. Now, the real question is not whether you are working hard or not. The real question is, are you working on the right thing in the right way? Because if the answer is no, then no matter how hard you work, your results will not change. And this is where things start getting interesting, because what you're about to understand can completely change the way you think. But before that, you need to understand how your mind actually works and why it keeps pushing you in the wrong direction. Now, pay close attention. Your biggest problem is not your skill. Your biggest problem is your mind. Yes, the same mind that you trust is the one that keeps distracting you. Wait, let's make this simple. You probably notice when you start something new, like go to the gym, coding, or creating content, for the first 2 to 3 days, you're full of energy. Motivation is high. Focus is sharp. Everything feels right. But then suddenly, you don't feel like doing it anymore. Your focus breaks. And slowly you quit. Why? Are you lazy? No. Your brain is smart, and it wants shortcuts. Your brain runs on one principle: instant reward. Meaning, whatever feels good right now, your brain will move toward that. That's why scrolling feels easy. Watching videos feels effortless. Starting something new feels exciting. But working on the same skill every day, that feels boring. And this is where the real game begins. You think the problem is discipline, but the real problem is dopamine. What is dopamine? In simple terms, it's your brain's reward signal. Whenever you do something new or exciting, dopamine gets released and your brain says, do this feels good. But when you do boring work, when you practice deeply, dopamine is low and your brain resists it. That's why you keep repeating the same pattern. Start something new, excitement. After 2 to 3 days, boredom. Then switch something new, and this cycle keeps you stuck. Now understand something dangerous. You think you are making progress, but in reality, you are just keeping yourself busy. And being busy is not growth. Wait, here's a question. How many things have you started but never completed? Think about it. the gym, a course, a project, a habit. How many things did you leave unfinished? That is your real problem. You're not losing consistency. You're changing direction. And every time you change direction, you start from zero. That's why it feels like, I'm working hard, so why am I not moving forward? Because you keep restarting. Now here's the twist. What do you think the solution is? More motivation, more discipline? But the truth is the opposite. You don't need motivation. You need a system. Because motivation is temporary. A system is permanent. And the people who actually move ahead don't rely on motivation. They rely on systems. Now the real question, what kind of system? How does it work? And what is that one thing that 90% of people completely miss? This is where things start becoming even clearer. But before that, you need to understand one more uncomfortable truth, the one that can completely change your entire strategy. Now listen carefully. You've been taught one thing since childhood. The harder you work, the more successful you become. It sounds right, but it's incomplete, because the real game is not about hard work. The real game is what you are working on, and this is where most people get stuck. You might be doing the same, a little coding, a little editing, a little content, a little business. You think, I'm becoming multi-skilled, but the truth is slightly different. You're not becoming multi-skilled, you're becoming multi-confused. Wait, let's understand this logically. Let's say you have 100 units of energy. If you put it into one skill, you build depth. But if you divide the same 100 energy into 5 different things, each gets only 20. And with 20 energy, you can't become the best in anything. That's why some people slowly move ahead, while others stay average. Now here's a big illusion. You feel like, I'm learning so many things. But in reality, you're mastering nothing. And the world doesn't reward average people. The world rewards mastery. Now comes an uncomfortable question. What is that one thing you have worked on so deeply that you can confidently say, I am better than others at this? If you don't have an answer, then the problem is clear. You never built depth. And without depth, respect, growth, income, nothing becomes stable. Now here's the twist. You think, I need to learn more. But the truth is the opposite. You need to learn less but go deeper, because collecting knowledge is easy, but building skill is hard. And what is hard is what is valuable. Now, there's another dangerous trap. Your mind convinces you, let's try something new, because new feels exciting, but going deep feels boring, and your brain avoids boring things. That's why you keep starting new things, and keep leaving the old ones behind. And this loop keeps you stuck. Wait, remember this line. Starting something new is easy, but sticking to one thing is hard. And what is hard is what will move you forward. Now, the real question is not what you are learning. The real question is, what are you letting go of? Because until you let go of everything else, you can't move forward in one thing. This is the point where 90% of people fail, because they don't want focus. They want variety. But success doesn't come from variety. Success comes from clarity. And clarity comes when you decide, I will work only on this. Now think about this. If you decide today that for the next 6 months, you will work on only one skill, no distractions, no switching, what would happen? This is where the game starts to change. But the real challenge begins now, because the next phase is the one where you won't see results. And this is exactly where most people quit. Now, the real question is, if you already know that sticking to one skill is necessary, then why can't you stay consistent? Why do you keep getting distracted? Why do you keep starting something new? The answer is not outside. The answer is inside your mind. Your brain works in 2 modes. Easy mode, growth mode. What is easy mode? Where everything feels easy. Results are instant and effort is low. Like scrolling, watching videos, starting something new. All of these feel good immediately. Why? Because dopamine is high here. Now it is growth mode, where you have to repeat the same work. Results don't come instantly. and progress feels slow. Like practice, deep work, sticking to one skill. Here, dopamine is low, and this is the problem. Your brain naturally chooses easy mode because for survival, it wants to save energy. So whenever you start something difficult, your brain sends signals. Just leave it. We'll do it tomorrow. Let's try something new. And you feel like this is my decision. But in reality, your brain is controlling you. Now a dangerous loop forms. You start boring work. Your brain resists. You look for distraction. You get instant reward. And the loop repeats. This is called the dopamine loop trap. And the people who get stuck in it never reach deep work. Now here's a question. How many times have you decided, from today, I'll be serious, but after 2 to 3 days, you're back to the same distractions? That's proof. The problem is not discipline. The problem is your system. Wait, understand this powerful line. Your environment is stronger than your willpower, meaning if your surroundings are full of distractions, no matter how disciplined you are, you will eventually lose. That's why people who move ahead don't control themselves. They control their environment. Now here's the twist. You think the solution is, I'll use my phone less. I'll become more disciplined. But that's not the real solution. The real solution is creating friction, meaning make distractions harder and make work easier. For example, keep your phone away, turn off notifications, keep your work setup ready so that when you start working, there is less resistance because your brain will always choose the easier option. So force it to make the right work feel easier. Now, one more insight. You think focus is a skill, but focus is actually an environment. If your environment is right, focus will come naturally. If your environment is wrong, focus becomes impossible. Now, the real question is not whether you are strong or weak. The real question is how strong your system is, because a weak system can defeat even a strong person, and a strong system can move even an average person forward. Now things are becoming clearer, but there's still one missing piece, the one that completes the whole picture and decides whether you move ahead or not, and that is understanding the right phase. By now, you've understood the problem is not hard work. The problem is direction. The problem is not discipline. The problem is your system. But now the real question is, if everything is clear, then why do people still fail to move forward? This is where the biggest mental shift comes in, the one that can completely change the way you think. What have you been doing until now? Chasing results. You want quick success, quick improvement, quick proof, and that is your biggest mistake. Wait, understand this carefully. Success is not an event. Success is a process. But your brain wants an event. One day, everything changes. Growth becomes visible instantly. And when that doesn't happen, you get frustrated. And then you quit. That's why people don't last. Now remember this powerful line. Results become visible later, but they are built first. Meaning, the work you are doing today won't show results immediately, but it is quietly building. And after a certain point, it suddenly becomes visible. This is the foundation of mastery. Now here's a dangerous misunderstanding. You think, when I see results, I'll stay motivated. But the truth is the opposite. You have to stay consistent before the results show up. And this is where 90% of people fail, because they want proof, but the process doesn't give proof. Now here's the twist. You think the people who move ahead are somehow different, but the truth is they simply accept the process. They know this is the boring phase. This is slow progress. No one will notice right now, and still they don't stop. Why? Because their focus is not on results. Their focus is on the process. Now ask yourself this. When you work, where is your focus? When will I get results? Or, how much did I improve today? That difference decides everything. And now things are about to get even clearer, because we're moving to the concept that forms the foundation of this entire game, the one that explains Why some people become unstoppable while others stay stuck. This concept is called the apprenticeship phase. But before you understand it, you need to accept an uncomfortable reality. This phase will be boring. It will be slow. It will be invisible. And most importantly, you will get no reward, no appreciation, no recognition, just work and practice. Now think about it. Can you stay consistent in a phase like this, where no one notices you and you still keep showing up every day? This is the filter that separates average people from top performers. And this is where the real journey begins, where skill is built and identity starts to change. Now the real game begins, the apprenticeship phase. This is the phase no one talks about openly because it's not glamorous. There's no spotlight here, no applause, only one thing: quiet work, every day, again and again, without visible results. Now understand this carefully. In this phase, your job is not just to learn. Your job is to understand, not just to practice, but to practice deeply. Because this is the stage where your foundation is built, and foundations are always invisible. You see a building, but you don't see its base, yet all its strength comes from it. The same applies to your skill. Now here's an uncomfortable truth. In this phase, you won't get any reward. No one will appreciate you. No one will say, "You're doing great." Sometimes, even you will question yourself. Am I even doing this right? And this is where self-doubt begins. You start comparing. They're ahead. I'm still here. And slowly your confidence drops. This is the moment where most people quit because they want results, but results aren't visible here. Now understand this powerful line. The phase that feels the most boring is actually the most powerful. But your brain rejects this phase because there's no excitement, no novelty, only repetition. And repetition feels boring. But the reality is, repetition creates mastery. You repeat the same thing again and again. Slowly your brain starts recognizing the pattern. And then a point comes where you do the right thing without even thinking. That is skill. Now here's another twist. You think practice improves with time, but the truth is, practice improves with awareness. Meaning, just putting in hours is not enough. You need to consciously observe. What am I doing? Where am I going wrong? How can I improve? That is deep practice. And that is what separates you from everyone else. Now a question. When you work, do you just do it? Or do you do it with understanding? That difference is the difference between a learner and a master. Now here's an emotional reality. In this phase, you will feel alone. People around you will seem ahead. You will feel behind. But in reality, you are building. And building is always slow, but strong. Now comes the most dangerous moment. When you are about to quit, when you feel, "I can't do this anymore." And this is where the decision is made, whether you become average or a top performer. Because the one who stays here moves forward, and the one who quits here starts the same cycle again. And that is why mastery is rare. Now the real question, can you tolerate this phase? Or will you give in to boredom? Because what comes next is only for those who stay. Now we've reached the point where the real decision happens. This is called the failure zone. It's not a physical place. It's a mental stage that every person reaches, but very few are able to stay in. Why? Because everything starts to feel upside down here. You're working hard, but results aren't showing. You're putting in time, but improvement isn't visible. You're staying consistent, but your confidence is dropping. And this is where the internal battle begins. Your mind starts questioning you. Am I doing this right? Is this even for me? Should I try something else? And slowly, your focus starts breaking. Now here comes the most dangerous thing: comparison. You look at others, someone is ahead, someone is growing faster, and you think, maybe I'm too slow. But the truth is different. You're not slow, you're just in the early stage. But your brain doesn't understand that. It only wants visible results. And when it doesn't get them, it panics, and then it pushes you. Try something new. This isn't working. Change direction, and this is where the game ends. You go back to the same loop, start something new, a little excitement, then boredom, and the cycle repeats. Wait, here's a brutal truth. People don't fail because of lack of skill. They fail because of boredom. Because skill takes time to build, but boredom is felt instantly, and to avoid boredom, you sacrifice growth. Now ask yourself this. When you feel stuck, do you push forward or do you escape? If you answer honestly, you'll know exactly where you stand. Now here's another twist. You think failure means not working, quitting, but real failure is not that. Real failure is restarting again and again, because every time you restart, you destroy your past progress and go back to zero. That's why it feels like, why am I not moving forward? Because you keep getting stuck at the beginning. Now here's a powerful realization. No one is stopping you from moving forward. You are stopping yourself through your decisions, through your patterns, and most of all, through your lack of patience. This might sound harsh, but it's the truth, because growth is uncomfortable, slow, and invisible, and your brain avoids all three. That's why the failure zone is so dangerous, because there is no external enemy here. You become your own enemy. Now, the final question, when your mind tells you, just quit, will you stop or will you stay just a little longer? Because what comes next is only for those who make it through this phase. And this is where the story changes. Slowly, silently, the breakthrough begins. At first, you won't feel anything big, no massive result, no sudden success, but a subtle shift will start. You'll notice things that once felt difficult now feel a little easier. Things that didn't make sense before now start becoming clear. And most importantly, your confidence starts building from within, not from outside. This is the first signal that you are in the right direction. Now, something interesting happens. You'll feel like your progress is still slow, but in reality, you're accelerating because now your brain has started recognizing the skill. It understands patterns, and you begin to perform better with less effort. That's the difference between a beginner and an advanced person. A beginner does everything consciously, an advanced person subconsciously. Now remember this powerful line. When a skill moves from your mind into your system, that's when real growth begins. This is the beginning of mastery. Now here's another twist. You think breakthrough happens suddenly, but the truth is breakthrough builds slowly and appears suddenly. Meaning, all the effort you put in earlier, which felt invisible, now starts becoming visible. People begin to notice. You've improved. You're better than before. And this is where external validation begins. But the difference is you no longer need validation because you already know you are growing. Now an emotional shift happens. Earlier, you doubted yourself. Now you start trusting yourself. Earlier, you wanted quick results. Now you start enjoying the process. And this is the moment where you separate from the average because now you stay, you don't run. Now ask yourself, have you ever felt this? That after a certain point, things suddenly start feeling easier? That moment is the breakthrough. But the problem is, very few people reach that point because they quit in the failure zone. And the ones who move ahead are not lucky, they are patient. Now here's another insight. You might think everything will be easy now, but it won't. This is just the beginning because now comes the next level where you don't just build skill, you build creativity. And this is where the real difference appears. Will you remain a follower or become a creator? Until now, you learned, you practiced, you repeated, but now you have to create. And this is the next jump. That takes you into the top 1%. But for that, there is one more thing you need to understand, something most people miss, and that alone decides whether you stay average or become extraordinary. Now here comes the biggest twist. You think mastery means more knowledge, more skills, more learning, But the truth is the exact opposite. Mastery doesn't come from learning more. It comes from understanding the right thing deeply. This is the point where most people make the same mistake again. As soon as they start seeing a little progress, they jump into new things again. Let's learn this too. Let's add this skill as well. And slowly, their focus breaks again. This is the second trap. Subtle, but dangerous. Wait, understand this powerful line. Depth makes you stand out. Distraction pulls you back to average. Now the real game begins. The creation phase. Everything you've learned, everything you've practiced, now you have to use it to create your own way. Meaning, you don't just follow anymore, you create. Now ask yourself, what are you doing right now? Are you copying or are you creating? Because there's a huge difference. Copying helps you learn, but creating makes you unique. And the world rewards uniqueness. Now here's another twist. You think creativity is talent, but the truth is, creativity is a result of patterns plus practice. When you go deep into a skill, you start understanding patterns, and then your brain combines those patterns to create something new. That is creativity. Now here's an emotional truth. When you start creating, you will feel fear. What if this is wrong? What if people don't like it? And that fear stops you. But remember, the one who doesn't take risks never becomes visible. Now here's the most important shift. You are no longer working just to learn. You are working to create value. And that is the jump. That takes you to the top level. Now people will start copying you. You won't follow trends. You will create them. And that is real mastery. Now ask yourself, do you want to reach that level? Or do you want to stay comfortable at the basic level? Because the difference is huge. At the basic level, you survive. At the mastery level, you dominate. Now the final realization. You don't need new things to move forward. You need to take your current skill to the next level. But for that, you need to understand one last thing. The final piece of this entire journey. The one that decides whether you just improve or become unstoppable. Now the last piece remains, the one that completes this entire journey. You've understood everything. Direction, focus, system, deep work, patience, creation. But still, if you don't take action, nothing will change. So now let's make it simple. What exactly do you need to do? Because clarity without action is just information. And information doesn't change your life. Execution does. So listen carefully. If you truly want to become the best in your field, there are 3 things you must do. Choose one skill and stick to it. First, you need to decide, what do you want to become the best at? Not 5 things, not 3 things, just one. Because until you decide, you won't progress. Remember, clarity gives power. Confusion drains energy. Work on it for 6 to 12 months without switching. This is the hardest step, but also the most powerful. You need to commit to yourself. For the next 6 to 12 months, I will not change direction. No distractions, no new experiments, just consistency. Because real growth takes time. And if you quit in between, you go back to zero. Focus on the process, not the result. This is the biggest shift. Every day, ask yourself, am I better than yesterday? Not, when will I get results? Because when you focus on the process, results come automatically. And when you chase results, the process breaks. Now here's the final truth. No one is stopping you from moving forward. Not society, not resources, not luck. You are stopping yourself through your patterns, your distractions, your impatience. But the good part is you can change it from today, from this moment, if you decide that you will do what is necessary, not what is easy. The game will change. Now, one last question, and answer it honestly. When no one notices you, when results don't show, when everything feels boring, will you still stay consistent? Because if you do, one day, people will ask you, how did you get here? And you will know this didn't happen overnight. It happened every single day. Mastery is visible in a moment, but built every day. Now the choice is yours. Do you want to stay average or go to the top? And if this truly made sense to you, then comment below. I will not stop. Because commitment doesn't become strong by thinking. It becomes strong when you declare it. And if you want more real and practical videos like this, that actually move you forward, then subscribe to the channel. Because here, you don't just get motivation, you learn real growth.